Friends, I don't know this girl's name, so I will call her Alicia. Alicia came out of the doorway, closed her eyes, and flashed a charming smile. The focus of all the powerful and rich people was focused on her. They all came forward to greet her. Lin Wanwen placed her hand on her mouth, and her eyes widened with wonder. She was surprised to see that Alicia was so beautiful. She looked exactly like a manga heroine. Dong Xingji's eyes were filled with calm. He crossed his arms and looked at Alicia quietly. He turned to Lin Wanwen and said with a confident smile that if her appearance was more impressive, she could compete with Alicia's beauty. Hearing this, Lin Wanwen placed her hands on her chest and her eyes widened in wonder. She couldn't believe that Dong Xingji thought she was equal to Alicia. Dong Xingji's words made she blush and look very cute. She averted her gaze, a flicker of sincerity in her eyes, thinking he was mocking her. Alicia, the daughter of the president of the World Martial Arts Association, carried a reputation that few could rival. In terms of status, influence, and beauty, she was in a league of her own far beyond comparison. With a playful smile, she covered her mouth and teasingly asked why Dong Shengdi hadn't considered winning Alicia's heart. Given his talent as a rising star of the Eastern Dragon Kingdom, she believed he had the capability to attract someone of her caliber. Behind her, Dong Shengyi stood silent, deep in thought. His expression shifted, his eyes widening with unease as he forced a smile. He quickly dismissed Lin Wanwen's words, pleading with her not to make fun of him. With so many exceptional individuals at the party, he saw himself as just a shadow among them, someone who had only recently stepped into the limelight. He wasn't eager to face another humiliating defeat. Lin Wanwen's eyes gleamed with excitement. Tapping her cheek with a finger, she recalled the moment Lu Shang had delivered a powerful punch to Dong Potion's chest. With a smirk, she mentioned that she had heard Dong Potion had also suffered defeat at Lu Shang's hands and was now merely lingering in the shadows. She then jokingly suggested that they go comfort him, perhaps even exchange stories about their shared misfortune. Dong Shengyi exhaled deeply, closing his eyes as memories of his defeat replayed in his mind. He had been left battered and exhausted, kneeling on the ground, while Lu Sheng had stood on the other side, grinning. Within the Dong family, there were two remarkable talents, both of whom had suffered crushing defeats at the hands of the same man, their future brother-in-law. To Dong Shengyi, fate was merciless, and he had to admit that if there was any man truly worthy of his sister, it could only be Lu Shang. Meanwhile, at the grand banquet, the marshals of the army were enjoying their feast. The Western marshal lifted his glass, a knowing smile forming on his lips. Seated beside him, the Northern marshal, in high spirits, raised his own glass. They clinked their drinks together in celebration. The Western marshal took a sip, then turned to his companions with a confident look. He remarked that the daughter of Cumberland, the president of the World Martial Arts Association, possessed both extraordinary lineage and talent. Her beauty and prestige made her a fitting match for the future god of war. He then posed a question should they send someone to negotiate on the matter. Nearby, Alicia was surrounded by admirers, yet the Northern Marshal's attention remained fixed on her. His eyes sparkled with interest, and soon the Central Marshal also took notice. Smiling, the Central Marshal acknowledged that it was a matter worth considering. After all, one could never have too many wedding gifts. However, as he closed his eyes, his expression turned serious. He then stated that he disagreed with them. In his view, their great nation was home to billions, and there was no shortage of exceptional women who could stand beside their god of war. Blindly admiring foreigners, he believed, was a meaningless gesture. Hearing this, the Western Marshal's eyes filled with admiration. With a grin, he nodded in agreement. There was no reason to let Cumberland, that man from the Lian Kingdom, gain the upper hand. Besides, if he remembered correctly, Liu Shang already had his sights set on a woman from the Dong family. The Northern Marshal chuckled, lifting his glass once more. Deciding to steer the conversation away from such matters, they all raised their drinks and toasted again. Not long after, Alicia found herself sitting at a table beside a woman with chestnut-colored hair. Her eyes, filled with fatigue, drifted toward the floor. Resting her head on one hand, she let out a quiet sigh, regretting her decision to attend the party. The woman beside her extended a hand, watching her closely before offering a warm smile. She assured Alicia that she was a rare gem in this world, and that admiration only made such jewels shine even brighter. Alicia sighed again. To her, such admiration felt hollow. People sought her not for who she was, but for what she represented. Sensing Alicia's emotions, the woman's gaze turned more confident. With a teasing smile, she pointed out that sooner or later, Alicia would have to marry. She then asked if Mr. Cumberland had discussed this matter with her. Alicia, still weary, let out another sigh. She admitted that her father had told her to find her ideal partner before the night ended. If she failed to do so, she might lose the right to choose for herself. As the party carried on, the woman reminded Alicia that gatherings of this scale, where the world's most outstanding talents assembled, only occurred once every decade. Fixing her gaze on Alicia, she firmly suggested that Alicia follow her father's advice. In this era, a woman's beauty and youth did not last forever. Hearing this, Alicia's eyes widened slightly in concern. She rested a hand under her chin, glancing around at the men in the room, knowing she had little time to make her choice. At another table, a young man sat eating in silence. Alicia lifted a finger, pointing toward him, and declared that her ideal partner should at least be like that boy. That boy was none other than Lu Shang. He was calmly using a fork, preparing to enjoy his steak. In Alicia's eyes, he was flawless. Lu Shang's expression shifted, his instincts warning him that someone was watching him. Scanning the room, his gaze locked onto Alicia. His thoughts raced. Why was she looking at him? Meanwhile, the woman beside Alicia playfully touched her lips, a dreamy look in her eyes. She remarked that Lu Shang was as attractive as Alicia herself. Then, with a mischievous smile, she said that if Alicia wasn't interested in him, she might as well take her chances. Alicia's eyes widened, her face heating up. Flustered, she stood up and, with a determined expression, insisted that no one had said she wasn't interested in Lu Shang. Finishing his steak, Lu Shang set his knife down. Alicia nervously approached him, her arms behind her back, observing him in silence. Lu Shang's eyes narrowed in suspicion. Why was she suddenly standing in front of him? He had overheard the Marshals discussing Alicia, and he knew exactly who she was, the daughter of Cumberland, one of the most powerful martial saints alive. For a brief moment, fear flickered in his eyes. Realizing that she was trying to flirt with him, Lu Shang remained cold and distant. When she asked for recommendations on the best food at the banquet, he gave a short, indifferent answer. Unwilling to give up, Alicia leaned in slightly, flashing an alluring smile as she asked what his favorite dish was. Lu Shang's eyes involuntarily shifted to her assets. Realizing his mistake, he quickly turned his head away and pointed at the dessert. "The cake," he said. Intrigued, Alicia picked up a fork, took a bite, and her eyes lit up with delight. She admitted that the cake was indeed delicious. Lu Shang, however, remained unmoved. Meanwhile, a man and woman in glasses, whom we had seen before, quietly observed them from a distance. The man studied Lu Shang carefully, sensing immense strength within him. The woman rested a hand on her hip, deep in thought. "So friends, I am remembering the name of this girl, but it came to me after a long time, so I named her Alicia, but actually her name is Fiona, so don't get confused because Alicia and Fiona is same character, so guys, let's start the video again." The girl gets very shocked and asks Sei, "Do you think Liu Sheng is still alive?" And after hearing this, Sei starts saying to the girl while pointing his hand towards the military man, "Didn't you see that even the old experts from the military came?" In previous generations, the military would send young rising generals mainly to train the younger generation of experts, while also helping them to compete for a share of energy crystals. But this time, it's different. It seems that they are preparing to fight for themselves and pave the way for Lu Shang, the military's future martial saint. So Lu Shang must still be alive. After listening to the whole thing, the girl starts laughing and says, "You are right. It is such a shame that Liu Sheng did not come here." Then Sei tells the girl, if Liu Sheng really did come, then there will be no doubt that the empire will be victorious, and our dragon nation will get a larger share of the energy crystals. After hearing this from Sei, the girl asks Sei, "When do you think Liu Sheng will ascend to martial saint?" As soon as that girl asks Sei that, "What do you think, when will Liu Sheng become a martial saint?" Sei replies to her that no one knows this except Liu Sheng, and on hearing this, that girl gets very angry and starts saying to Sei, he could defeat Jiadao martial saint at level 8. Once he becomes a martial saint, then wouldn't he be unstoppable? The man's eyes widened in rage, and his body began to tremble. According to him, she was underestimating the martial saints. He admitted that Lu Shang was strong, but at least, for the next 100 years, the number 1 of the Eastern Dragon could only be their lord. His eyes widened with confidence, and a smile spread across his face. He began to release martial energy, and made it clear that not even the extreme martial saint had been able to surpass their lord, nor the transcendental martial saint, and much less would Lu Sheng. After a few hours, while the sun was illuminating the castle, Lu Sheng went outside and with a smile began to walk away. He left the party halfway through the event. During the gathering, he spoke with Fiona for a long time, which caused many people to look at him with anger and resentment.